anytime I travel, whether it's for personal or business reasons, one of my biggest dilemmas is choosing the camera and lens selections that I want to take on that experience. Now, in this video, I challenged myself. I could take as many cameras as I wanted, but it had to fit in this bag. Let's take a look at what I came up with. First things first. Now, I'm going to clarify that with this camera setup and the bag I chose to carry everything, I am going for the most minimal setup as possible. And the reason why is because on this particular trip, 6 of the days are going to be spent on a bicycle, cycling from town to town in the Netherlands and Belgium. Now, this is unique to this particular trip, but I'm finding myself more and more anytime I do go on a vacation, or even if I am shooting for a client, I'm trying to get that camera setup as small as possible. So these small size cameras are getting better and better all the time. And this is enabling me to actually do this more and more, be able to pack smaller sized camera bodies, lenses, and even just cameras in general to complete whatever video shoot I'm out to complete. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the bag. I'm going to walk you through each of the camera options I chose. And there is video samples available for all of the cameras that I took on this vacation. I'm going to leave that link in the description down below. And that way you can see what that quality looks like if you're looking to come up and use a small, minimal setup, just like the one I'm going to share with you today. This first camera I chose is the Sony A7R5 paired with the Sony 16 to 35mm f4.0 lens. I chose this camera and lens combination, first of all, because of its compact size. The Sony 16 to 35mm lens is one of my smallest lenses. And what I wanted to be able to do on this trip, because I'm going to be out in nature and probably more focused on landscape, maybe some vlogging, not a lot of talking head type of video. I wanted to be able to take this camera with me for, the high megapixel count, and also just to have quality audio and video on hand. The A7R5 is one of my favorite hybrid cameras, and this is what I chose to take. The next camera I chose to take is the Insta360 X4. I love these 360 cameras. I stopped buying GoPros years ago. The reason why I love these cameras is because you just set it up and you forget it. Now, keep in mind, while I'm moving about a city or especially on a bike, all I have to do is just turn this camera on. I don't have to worry about where it's pointing or what it's capturing. I can modify all of that in post. Now, the Insta360 X4 is a 6K camera. So what I did and how I put this camera to use on this trip was I attached it to the handlebars on the bike I was on, and I just had the camera pretty much set up the whole time. Anytime I wanted to capture something, I just had to hit record. I just had everything set up and ready to go. And this was a great camera to have on this particular experience. And finally, the third camera I chose to take with me is a camera I probably have with me all the time. That is my iPhone 15 Pro. Now, this camera is great because I can take photos, I can take video. I'm not on a client trip, so I'm not doing client work. I'm really just focused on capturing memories. Now, all I have to do with this camera is just place it into the front of my bag. It's easily accessible anytime I want to take a photo or anything like that. I just pull this camera out. The video quality is great on it too. So this made this a no-brainer option if I wanted to capture video or photos and I didn't necessarily want to take out the Sony A7R5, then I could easily reach for my iPhone and capture memories using this camera. I've shown you all of my video options. The other thing that really took a lot of consideration for this trip was audio. So normally I'll grab a small size shotgun mic or even a wireless microphone system. But because I was traveling in another country, if I took a wireless system, it meant that I would have to, charge it just like with everything else. And with a shotgun mic, it would have just taken up more room in the bag that I chose to house all of these cameras. So in this case, what I decided to do was keep all of my external microphones at home. And if I did need a higher quality audio on this trip, I would just use my iPhone to do that. I didn't end up doing that, but that was my plan. And that's why you don't see any type of external audio, anything in this setup. I don't know about you, but anytime I travel extensively with camera gear, if I get home and I didn't use something that I packed and carried with me for hundreds of miles, literally hundreds of miles in this case, I get really cranky about it. But I'm happy to report that I did use all of these cameras very extensively on this trip. I used the Sony A7R5 anytime I wanted high quality, really wide angled footage. I also used this for low light situations, like if we were in a museum. The Insta360 X4 was so handy on the bike. Like I said, I just set it up on the bike and left it there and just turned it off and on anytime I needed to use it. And when it came to the iPhone, that was always at the ready. I do know that I'm going to get quality photos and videos out of that camera. I could also shoot and log if I really want to get higher quality video out of that camera. And I use all of them a lot. And as far as using this equipment again in the future, for a trip like this, I absolutely would go with this setup. In fact, there wasn't anything that I would change or necessarily wanted to change on the spot. If I were to change one thing, it might be my lens selection. Sony has now come out with the 16, I think, to 24 millimeter f2.8 lens. It seems to be a little smaller in size. So that is a lens that I might consider for a future trip like this over the 16 to 35. But either way, that focal length worked really well for me. Now, when it comes to client work, it would depend on the type of video footage that I'm trying to capture on that trip. If I didn't have to make any audio considerations, this would be fine. And if the content was going to be used for social media only, then this is a setup that I would consider taking. If you followed this channel for a while, you know that I use the Insta360 X4 in lieu of a drone in a lot of situations. There are times when putting a drone in the sky is complicated, or sometimes it's just not allowed. So I do turn to the Insta360 in those situations. And as you can see from the sample footage, you can get some drone-like footage that's really beautiful. So this setup, I can definitely recommend if you're in a similar situation. This is so small and light. Check out the sample footage that I captured. I do include footage from each of the cameras so that you compare everything. Now, I didn't shoot and log. This is all footage that's directly out of camera. I didn't want to have to come home and give myself another project to work on if I had to color grade things and that type of stuff. I really just wanted to capture this experience as it was, straight out of camera, and go from there. So go check out the sample footage. Of course, you can always correct footage from there. You can do some color correction, and you can do other things to your footage to make it a little bit better looking, but I just wanted to show you what everything looked like out of camera. So go check that video out now. Thanks as always for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe before you head out. Hit the thumbs up. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again in next week's video.